Alright, imagine you're in the middle of exam season. There is a big test or two every week, and there seems to be no end in sight to this. You check your calendar and realize that there is a big chemistry test this week which you completely forgot about and haven't even started studying for it yet. You panic and start randomly studying without any real intention or plan. Your learning is all over the place. One moment you're doing this, the other you're doing that, and there is no structure. Soon the test rolls around and you do horrible on it. If only you had an efficient way to manage, structure, and simplify everything.
I'm Aaron, base rated student on self-improvement, and a big ass whiteboard like this can really change your life. If you have multiple different interests like me, maybe you go to the gym, maybe you do studies, maybe you do business on the side, maybe you understand that the best way to make lots of progress in each of these kind of at the same time is to systematize and structure out things a lot, which is what I wanted to do a few weeks ago. Especially during exam season, like the last couple of months, I really needed a place to like just organize everything down and structure everything, because otherwise I just got a bit overwhelmed with all the different stuff that's happening in my life, and it's hard to keep track between different focuses. But I had nowhere good to plan out my days quickly and efficiently. Like, I tried using digital tools, but I kind of just lost them and it wasn't really easily accessible all the time, so that didn't work for me. And then I tried using paper and pencil on a notebook, but that, to be honest, just didn't feel fun, and you couldn't easily erase it. And I really needed to find a better way to do this stuff, because otherwise I would just fall off as I'm trying to do too many different things at once, and my focus and energy is not directed enough. And I end up spending a lot more hours for the same result, and just waste a bunch of unnecessary brain power, which could have been directed at many other high ROI things. And then one day, I'm in IKEA, I went there with my parents, and we're just roaming around looking for stuff to buy for the house, and then my eyes catch a whiteboard. And it's not just any whiteboard, it's a big ass, huge whiteboard. And I was like, maybe I could use that for my studies, maybe I could systemize and structure stuff like that. So then I walked to it, I looked at a couple of options. There was a small, medium, large, super large. I was like, maybe I try this out. So I bought like one of the biggest ones because I knew that I wanted to have space to write out everything. I copped that one, and then I went home to try it out. Just after using it for a couple of days, I realized how high ROI and how useful this really is. It really helped me like map and plan out everything in life, and helped me simplify life, and life just became much more fun, even during like stressful exam seasons. This whiteboard, it's a system, and systems have a multiplicative effect on them. So the work that you put in, it multiplies the output that you get from it. That's the power of a system. And this whiteboard, after I had planned stuff out in like a logical way and like structured it out for the next couple of days, and it really helped me like think of the overall scope and just be much more simple with my actions. Like, that helped me clear up and simplify things a lot. Like, for example, let's say you have a big test coming up. Studying for it can seem really complex. Like, you have to do these worksheets, and then you have to review that, and then you also have to add that in, and that contradicts that, but what about this too? And it can seem like all over the place sometimes. But what a whiteboard does is that it lets you like effectively map out everything that you need to do, and you can just say like, today I will do this and this and this in order, tomorrow I'll do this and this and this, and the last day before the test I'll do this and this, and the morning before the test I'll just review this and this and that. And I know if I go through these all in order, and I know that I included everything in an efficient way, then I know that I'm going to do really good on the test. So how do you actually go about using a whiteboard like this? Firstly, you buy the biggest whiteboard that you possibly can, and of course it's a balance between budget and how much space you have in your room. But the bigger, the better, because the more space you have, the better you can map out things, and it's just nicer to use. Don't be afraid to spend on it, because it is a great investment, and whiteboards are not that expensive, bro. So after you've bought like the biggest whiteboard you can, you're ready to start using it. That's literally all you need. And you of course need some like whiteboard pens and stuff. Buy those too, or you can maybe borrow them from school, which is what I did. Don't tell anyone, bro. I don't condone stealing, because I'm gonna return the pens, but I would just suggest just buying your own pens, bro. It's not that expensive. Once you have the whiteboard, you want it to be really close to you and it to be really accessible, so it's easy to just switch over to it, jot down whatever you need. Also, by the way, I suggest you get a bunch of different colors for your whiteboard. So for example, I have all of these colors, as you can see, got blue, red, black, green, different shades of them too. And what different colors will do is that it's just more fun to use, first of all, and also it's like better to systemize and structure out everything. It's easier to keep track of it. Now the mindset that you want when you use this whiteboard is to keep it as empty and clean as possible. What you're doing with the whiteboard is basically writing down action steps or stuff that you're gonna do, and the goal with it is to just keep it as empty and to just erase out the actions. And you can only erase out the actions by doing them. So it's just a way to simplify the whole action taking process. And every time you get an idea from like maybe you're reading and you get an idea like, maybe I can try this out in this way, you can just quickly jot it down on your whiteboard and simply do it. And once you're done with it, you can, you know, take your learning experience from that and just erase it out. So that's one important part of the mindset of using this pretty unconventional method of a whiteboard. Now, how do you actually go about using the whiteboard effectively? Through my experience, I've found 3 broad tips which have really helped. And the first tip is to separate your whiteboard into different sections. Basically, the sections are the main few focuses and priorities that you have in life of your goals. For example, I can have a section here which is just studies, and if it's, for example, during exam season, it would be the biggest section out of this massive whiteboard. So I would have, for example, a section of studies. There can be another little section here about the gym, about maybe like some tips or notes that you want to keep in mind for the gym, or it can be like about, I don't know, business or whatever other hobby or anything like that you have in mind. Or if you just have like one main focus in life, you can make your entire whiteboard on that. Also, I like to keep a little like misc tab about like other random stuff. And for each of these sections, remember, the goal is to keep it as clean as possible. So anytime you can just randomly jot it down. As you can see, I cleaned it just for this video. The second tip is to be intelligent with what you actually write down. So for example, in your studies, you want to find the 20%, the Pareto's principle, the 20% of essential tasks that will really move the needle, that are really worth your time and money and effort, that will give you 80% of the results. It's the 80-20 rule, the Pareto's principle. What you don't do is that you write down the 80% of like broad general tasks that don't really move the needle. You don't write those stuff down over here because it's just going to fill up the whiteboard way too quickly. And you just want to prioritize the 20% of core tasks. And finally, the last tip I've found to use this whiteboard effectively is to write in chronological order of the things that you're going to do. I think I touched on this previously before, but for example, for today, you would write a couple of action steps that you need to do for tomorrow, for the day after that, and then you can just write dates and map out everything. You can even assign it to a certain time of the day, so like for your morning deep work session, you would do this. For your afternoon, you would do that. And it's just such an auspicious way to go about things. For example, let's say it's Monday and you have 2 tests coming up over the week. You have a chemistry test on Wednesday and you have a maths test on Friday. Let's say your main focus right now is studies because you have a bunch of tests right after each other. What you would do is that your main section of this would be studies, and then you would probably divide it into 2 parts, chemistry and maths, for Wednesday's test and Friday's test. Then in each of these sections, so for example chemistry, you would go through everything that you need to review or every single practice test that you need to do, and you just write it out chronologically in order. So for example, you decide that today you're going to do moles in chemistry, so you write down moles and whatever different stuff you're going to do, so like this practice test, that practice test, this worksheet, so you're going to review this, watch this video. That's going to be like the action steps. And then let's say after that you're going to do batteries, you write batteries, and then you just arrange everything here. And every time, and once you're taking the action to actually prepare and you're going through this, you have everything in one place, so it's easy to get the like overall picture of everything that you need to do and everything that you have left. And as you're taking action, once you're done with a certain task, you can just cross out or erase, in this case, the whiteboard in chronological order, so that it's as empty as possible. Bro, this is so good, especially if you have multiple things that you're doing. For example, if you're doing studies and you're doing business too. If you're working on studies, so you have a lot of tests, but then later you find that now's your time that you really want to do business, and it's a good time. So you go into the business world and you work a bit on that. And then once it's time to come back to the studies world, if you don't have like everything mapped and planned out in one place, then you might like forget like where you were at, how you were doing, and it will take you some time to get, I don't know, like recalibrated into the world. But having a whiteboard solves all of those issues by having everything systematically in one place. So definitely buy a big ass whiteboard like this. the bigger the better in this case. And you can see mine's from IKEA, for example. It can literally be anything, doesn't matter. But another thing that I use as a straight A student, apart from this whiteboard, to really get good grades in studies without spending my entire day on it, so I can do other stuff like working on my business, is to use an app called Notion. And if you've never heard of Notion, like, bro, what do you think? You're missing out. Notion is such a good place to manage and structure everything. It's probably my first used like productivity app, and then I use this whiteboard on top of that. But the point is, if you want my most used Notion templates that will really help you be more productive and just systemize things to a whole nother level, then check out the first link in the description. It's completely free. Subscribe and follow me on Insta at Aaron08x if this helped. And as always, your potential is only limited by your intention. Take care, bro.